Who? Hello, everybody. This is Nathan, and this is my take. And this is my list of potential Nebraska coaches that, well, this has just about every conceivable name that people were talking about for the head coaching job at Nebraska. It's only missing one. Wow. Mike Riely. Who saw that one coming? I never even heard of the guy before today. I mean, granted, I've seen Oregon State play before. I still remember them a few years ago beating USC at home and just stunning the Trojans. But that was back when Pete Carroll was still coaching the Trojans. That must have been back in 2008, 2007. But Mike Riely is not a name that has ever once come up anywhere, as far as I know, as a potential job for Nebraska. So I guess Sean Encrost did an amazing job in keeping this hush-hush under the radar. All right, Husker fans, stop freaking out about this. I know everyone wanted Jim Tressel, everyone wanted Brett Bielema, everyone wanted Don Mullen, and I was one of them. I wanted those guys too. I wanted a big name splash hire, come to Nebraska, turn things around. But Sean Encrost didn't say at his press conference that he was looking for the big name. He said he was looking for the right fit. He was looking for the right guy to lead Nebraska, and he obviously had this guy pegged as the next head coach at Nebraska before he even fired Bo Pelini. So I have to believe there is something there that he knows, that there's a reason that this guy was his #1 pick from the very beginning to take over Nebraska. And there might be a couple reasons I might think that this could be the case. Now, Nebraska fans, I know you're all freaking out about his record in Oregon State. But like I said in a previous video, talking about how Bo Pelini's 9-win seasons aren't really as impressive as they look on paper, this guy's record at Oregon State isn't as bad as it looks on paper. Look, stats don't lie. Stats tell the truth. But when you don't have the proper context to look at stats, they can often lead you to drawing the wrong conclusion from them. It's not that they're lying to you, but if you're merely looking at numbers on a piece of paper without any context to go with it, you're likely to draw the wrong conclusion from it. Looking at his record, it's worse than Bo Pelini's. Now, how could you possibly hire a guy whose record is worse than the guy you just fired? Well, just like Bo Pelini's record is not nearly as good as the numbers would have you believe, this guy's record isn't nearly as bad as it would have you believe. Did you know that before this guy took over at Oregon State, they hadn't had a winning season in decades? This is Oregon State we're talking here, people. This is not Oregon. Do not get the two confused. Oregon State's budget to spend on sports is minuscule compared to that of Nebraska's. Compare it to like Minnesota in the Big Ten. Now get the right guy in charge of Minnesota, yes, and they can be a contender. But not most years. Most years they're not going to be able to contend, and they're probably not going to be able to hold on to a guy for too long. This is a guy that's been offered the head coaching jobs at USC and Alabama, and was seriously considered for the UCLA job and turned them all down. There's a reason for that. It's because Oregon State is a perpetual doormat of the Pac-12. It was before he got there, at least, and now at least sometimes it becomes a contender and can pull a big upset every now and then. Again, remember, the resources at Oregon State are non-existent. They have their pick of players after Oregon, after USC, after UCLA, Arizona State. They're on the very bottom of the pecking order. Maybe only Washington State has a worse time winning in the Pac-12. So you look at his record, it's actually very competitive for the school he's at. He actually did a very good job at Oregon State. He has NFL experience. He didn't succeed too well in the NFL, but guess who else never succeeded in the NFL? Nick Saban, and look where he's at in Alabama. Now, I'm in no way comparing Mike Riely to Nick Saban. I'm just saying that you can't look at a coach and say they didn't succeed in the NFL and hold that against them, because there's a lot of good college coaches that don't succeed in the NFL. Chip Kelly is an outlier in that regard. He's very successful in the NFL, but not all college coaches can simply go from college to the NFL and be successful. Before he was in the NFL, he was in the Canadian Football League and won 2 championships there. That's nothing to sneeze at, people. That's nothing to sneeze at all. Now, everyone's saying, oh, look, Nebraska, you're in for mediocrity. I don't think that's the case at all. Even if this is a bad hire and he's not the right guy for the job, Nebraska is not destined to be a doormat of the conference. Look at the division we're in. We play Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Purdue, Illinois, and Northwestern every single year. Do you see Nebraska being a doormat of that division? I don't. We have practically 3 victories in conference every year against Illinois, Northwestern, and Purdue. 3. Practically free wins. Nebraska always starts the season with 2 to 3, most years 3 easy games. That's 3 victories off the beginning of the year that are gifted to you. That's 6 right off the bat. And then you got to be competitive against Iowa, Minnesota, and hopefully Wisconsin. Stop freaking out. This isn't the big name you wanted, but at the end of the day, you can't look at this and say, bad hire, we're destined for mediocrity, when the guy hasn't even coached down yet. You don't know that. This guy could be the next big thing at Nebraska. For you to put him down already without seeing what he can do is unfair to him and is unfair to our athletic director. So give the guy a shot. Quit freaking out. You know? Take a chill pill. Now, the only thing that really concerns me about this hire is the fact that the guy is 61 years old. How many years does he have at Nebraska? Now, there could be a very good reason for this. And let me explain. Consider for a moment that this is only a temporary thing. That there's a long-term plan in place for Nebraska to eventually make Scott Frost the head coach of Nebraska. Scott Frost isn't ready yet. He's just not. 2 years an offensive coordinator at Oregon and no head coaching experience. He's not ready. But what if you bring in an older, wiser, experienced head coach who's good at recruiting and has been at multiple levels and succeeded at top jobs, was there to mentor him? Mike Riely, people. What if Mike Riely comes out and hires Scott Frost as the offensive coordinator for Nebraska? And say 5-8 years down the line, he's made coach in waiting. You think Scott Frost wouldn't pounce at an opportunity to do that? He's not ready yet. But put 5, 8, maybe 10 at the very most years under a Mike Riely, teaching him and building him up to be the next coach at Nebraska. Do you not think he'll be ready then? I think he would be. That might be the idea behind this hire. That you wanted an older guy to bring up Scott Frost as the next head coach at Nebraska. And you would need an older man to do that. You don't want the present coach you hire to be there forever and ever and Scott Frost to zip off to another job in the meanwhile. That's what happened to Texas and Will Muschamp. But that's pure speculation at this point. He hasn't hired his staff yet. But that might be the idea behind this hire. He's not going to be there very long, even if he wins big. Even if he's winning conference titles, he's 61. How long do you think the guy wants to be coaching? I don't think he wants to be a Joe Paterno, coaching till he's 180. So we'll see. We'll see. If Scott Frost is hired onto the staff at Nebraska, that would be a pretty amazing thing. I think it'd go a long way to sating the concerns of the fan base. I know this isn't the sexy hire that everybody wanted. You know, he's not the coach we want. He's the coach we need to go old Batman on you. But we don't know how it's going to turn out. Let's sit and wait. Let's let him have a recruiting class under this belt. Let's see what he does during the season. Let's see what happens. Would I rather have Jim Tressel or Don Mullen? Yeah, of course I would. But that doesn't mean those two were best for the job. Give the guy a chance. That's all I'm saying. Stop freaking out. There's nothing to be concerned with yet. If he opens the season and loses 9 games, all right, it's time to be concerned. But you don't know that's going to happen. You don't know anything yet. Before today, you didn't even know who he was. So don't just look at the record. Look at the totality of his resume. It's actually a lot more impressive than you make it out to be. All right, this is Nathan. This has been my take. You all have a good one, and go Big Red.